talk about it, what we like, what we don't like. Hello and welcome to the Lunchbox reviews. Today we are doing Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1. I'm Lou and I'm joined by Michelle.
Hello.
And Alex. Before we start this off, Dune is directed by our fellow Canadian, Mr. Denis Villeneuve, of course. It's a very ensemble cast. Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron, my favorite. Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, and so on and so forth. It's a big cast. So before anything, did you guys know, or what did you know about Dune, like books wise and the previous movies?
I'll go first because I know nothing. I'd never seen it. I'd never read it. I'd only heard about it because one of my friends loves the original movie. So all I know about it is him quoting it. So the quotes that he says did not come up in this movie. So I truly knew nothing about the movie or anything. I knew there was sand and a worm, probably. That was about it.
I was aware of it. I have a friend who's a big fan of the book. I don't hear much from it because like it's like so dense. So like, what can you really say? But I did watch the David Lynch movie from way back when, which is like, if you try to watch it now, it's really dated, really weird, and really, it's a dense movie because if you think about it, like the two parts, like we only got half of a movie, and like in the David Lynch movie, we got like both and then some. So and the special effects are weird. I've got love for it, but I've also don't have love for it. I don't. It's hard to describe. Like I can go without watching it ever again, but if it's on TV, I'm like, oh, I got to see the sparring session with the suits. The special effects for the suits were crazy. But I'd also like to add that I watched a documentary. I forgot. I think it's called Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune, which is a documentary on his vision. Before David Lynch, he had a vision for a Dune movie that involved like the biggest celebrities, the biggest actors, the biggest designers like H.R. Giger, Mobius, actors including Freddie Mercury, Salvador Dali, Mick Jagger. Like he thought, like like his vision for this was incredible and insane. I recommend the documentary, and I'll stop.
Is that the guy that wrote Meta Barons?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Sounds familiar. Okay. The name sounds familiar, but
yeah.
So I know nothing of Dune. I bought the book 20 years ago. I don't know how many books there are, but the first one, it's somewhere there. I haven't cracked it open in 20 years. As for the movie, I think I've seen it once as a kid, and I don't remember anything about it. So naturally, I kind of just look at like highlights and the trailer on YouTube, and goddamn, it's crazy. It's so 80s. It looked weird, and I don't know if in the right mind I would probably watch it. I don't know, but maybe after a couple of beers or something. But yeah, so with that, Dune Part 1 2021. Let's go with our initial thoughts. Who wants to go first?
I'll start it off because I think I have the least amount to say potentially. It was cool. I didn't know to expect a part 1, part 2 situation initially, so I kind of had to just rejig my brain when I realized that was what was happening, because I was expecting a little bit more from this one. But now that I know that it's part 2, I really liked it. Visually, I thought it was sick. There's a couple of visual moments that I'm like really into. I like the world of Dune. I've decided like I'm into the lore. It's intriguing to me. And like it was decent enough movie. I'd probably watch it again. And that's it.
I thought it was fantastic. I think that like big space drama movies are stuck in the mud, and it's all because of Star Wars. Like it's had such a negative effect on sci-fi. I mean, sure, it's great, yeah, but it's like too bombastic, too loud, too much action. Or like there's no artistry. You know what you'll get. You'll get big special effects. You won't get smart special effects, and that's what Dune was. Dune was smart. Dune was clever. Dune was tasteful. Like even Star Trek. If you look at where the TV series was, or how it's portrayed, to where the movies went, under what's his name, the dude that directed Brian, no, not Brian. I'm thinking Brian Singer, the guy who directed the Star Wars movies,
George Lucas?
the new one.
Oh, oh my God, what's his name? Brian Singer?
Yeah.
No, not. Oh my God,
That's what I was thinking too. Brian Singer.
J.J. Abrams.
Somebody.
J.J. Abrams, yes, exactly, yeah. J.J. Abrams, like he's just creating these horribly atrocious movies, you know. And over here, Denis Villeneuve, he's on fire. Every single movie he's made, it's like a favorite of mine, and this is no different. It's he put his keen directorial eye to the genre of like big soap opera, sci-fi sort of deal, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, so for me, I actually watched this movie twice. I was tempted and I lost the first time at watching it at home. And to be honest, I fell asleep in some parts. Though I love Dune. After rewatching it in the theater where the sound and everything was just like pumped to level 11, I actually liked it more. I paid attention more. I like this movie and I understand why a lot of people who are fans of like just the franchise saying that this was a better Star Wars because George Lucas did kind of take some of the ideas from Dune to Star Wars, and I can see why. That being said, we're gonna go start spoilers now. I'm gonna go my super quick overview, so just bear with me. I'm not the best at this. So, Dune Part 1 is about a young man named Paul Atreides and how his family was sent to one of the most dangerous desert planets called Arrakis to procure spice. At first, I was kind of just confused what that was. I was like, man, this oregano must be really good. But it's basically the lifeblood of the universe. It's also like a drug. And it has a thing where healing thing where it extends the life of everything. And this planet, their family is attacked and it was overrun by Baron Harkonnen's posse. Lots of people die, including the Duke, who also happens to be Paul's father. So when Paul and his mother survive, they escape. They cross the desert to find the Fremen, who are the locals on this planet. And this is where, after almost 2 hours, we hear Zendaya speak in person and not in Paul's vision or dreams. And after a duel with Paul and one of the Fremen, Paul winds up and gets accepted to the ranks, and the end of Part 1. So yeah, let's go over to the story. Let's talk about it. What we like, what we don't like. Go.
Wait, I just want to say that was a really good recap, Lou. That was really well done.
Nailed it.
I like it. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
I'm trying here. Gabagoo.
The gabagoo. I gotta say the story's really dense, and like I went with my friend and he fell asleep during the movie, and I don't blame him, but because it does feel like it's kind of like an audiobook. Like there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of expository dialogue, but I am all about that because like you're giving me this world, you're fleshing it out. I want as much of it as possible, and I guess it does that, I suppose, to a fault, because I can definitely understand that people could get drowsy, but it's a unique story. Obviously, it's based on a classic novel. What I do like about it is that the central story does involve like Paul and his mother, and I think that's a great dynamic, and it's very original, because Hollywood is all about the father and son, or no, father and daughter. Actually, you see that all the time. That sort of dynamic. But yeah, a son and mother story. It was refreshing.
I think having watched the trailer kind of hurt my understanding of what was going to happen in this movie, because I was expecting Zendaya like immediately.
They
So the whole
market it
time
that way.
I'm like, where's she at? And I'd seen all
Yeah.
like the red carpet things of her and Timothy Chalamet. It's this whole thing on TikTok right now, like blah blah blah. So I just thought she had a bigger role. So I was just a little bit confused. I'm sure like part two, obviously she'll have a big role, and that's maybe why it was done like that. I don't know, but story wise, I suffered from the density of it. I like the world, and I think I needed to watch the movie in theaters because I watched it at home by myself, because I'm like, this is how I want to watch it. I want to just like no distractions at all. I want to really like dig into this. And I found myself being a little bit like drowning in the story. So after I watched it, I read the Wikipedia to make sure I understood, because honestly, this has never bothered me in any other, like I watched the Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars and all these big world building things. I got so confused as to like what group was what group, because there were so many different names for these different groups and these different people, that I actually got a little bit like, wait, who's attacking who, and what is this, and who is this? So upon reading it, like reading the Wikipedia, I was able to kind of get it a little bit clearer in my mind, because I just got confused as to like who the mom was and her group of her like sect of humans or people, and then the Fremens, and just the different names like just didn't, I don't know, it didn't stick in my brain, so I got confused at one point. But story wise, I did like it. Like I like the adventure, and the thing that I liked about the story is I like the character of Paul. He reminds me of all the characters of these types of movies. Like he's, what's his face from the thing we just did for Reader Watch that I can't remember. That one.
Ready Player One?
No, the other. Oh, it's right here. Ender's Game. It's Ender from Ender's Game.
Yes,
like
yes,
it's this gifted kid doing his thing, being a gifted kid. I love the stories. I don't know, they work well for me. And I really liked his moments of, I don't know, just be like, he's very notably different from his family, and the way he interacts with the Fremens is very different, and him like wanting to absorb this knowledge of this people, that like I liked that part of the story, like him doing a little sandwalk. I don't know why that to me just stood out as like a really good moment, but I really like that he's just like adapting to the environment. I like that storyline, and I'm excited to see him like continue to adapt to where he is. So story was cool.
Yeah, I actually really like the story. It's a story that's sort of kind of been told before. It's nothing new. I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, but it's a better version of Star Wars. I think you have that hero, and like you guys have already mentioned, this is dense as hell, and it explains why the first viewing of it was just like laying in my bed, and I just like, but it had enough lore so that when I actually watched it with my friend in the theater, I was like paying attention to everything that was going on. And I like that, because I find that even sometimes movies in theaters or wherever, if the story is not great, for me at least, it loses you, and then your mind is just somewhere else. But this one kept me paying attention to everything that was going on, which actually pissed me off a little bit, because when the first movie ended, there was no mention of part two. And if it didn't do well, it's doing well now. That would have been it, and that would have really pissed me off, because I wanted more of the story. What's gonna happen to Paul? And I've heard bits and pieces from like friends that are Dune fans, like his sister is coming, and something really messed up is gonna happen to Paul. So I was like, all right, I'm really invested in this. So yeah, that story was really good, super dense, thick, but it was really great knowing all that lore and information about everything that's going on. So with that, let's talk about the performances. Who stood out to you? Who kind of meh? And yeah, let's talk about the performances, guys.
I enjoyed everyone. Like I mean, they had the whole cast was just such big names that like everyone. Like the only fault I could find is that there's not enough of the Harkonnens. That's it. Like I would have loved way more of Stellan Skarsgård, his character, because like he chewed up the scenery whenever he was, you know, in on camera on film. But otherwise, like Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho was amazing. That might have been my favorite. But then again, Oscar Isaac as Leto Atreides, he was great. Everyone was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no complaints about any of the performances actually. Even though like I got a little stuck with the story, there was not a single performance that specifically was boring to me that I was like, oh, this person's on the screen, I don't love it. I was all in on these characters. And I get a little nervous when I see an ensemble cast this big because I've seen it done and then I see each of these actors play themselves and just be like, oh, there's another, you know, this person again in a movie. This is a bad example, but I think like Expendables, things like that, where it's like it's just the same person doing the same thing. I felt like all of the actors, minus like Jason Momoa, but it also was the character that the character is Jason Momoa, and like whatever. I can't get over him without a beard though. That like really just like hurts me. But I thought everyone was fantastic. I really like Timothy Chalamet, even though his name's it's not even pronounced Timothy. We've all been saying it wrong. I watched an interview. It's actually Timothy, like Timothée or something, because he's French. But he's like, oh, it's okay, call me whatever, I don't care. So he's given the world permission to call him literally whatever, including just names that aren't even his. He's in all the interviews. He's like, yeah, call me Greg. I'm like, okay, sure, Greg Chalamet. I've seen him in a couple things now, because he was in like Little Women and he was spectacular in that. I haven't seen him in anything that he doesn't absolutely just kill it in, and this is no exception. Like I adore him in this role. And I don't see it as him anymore. Like it's not Timothy Chalamet doing his thing. It's fully Paul. Like that's Paul. And I just think that's really impressive, especially against like a cast of really fantastic older actors as well that have already kind of like, I know I love Oscar Isaac. I know I love him. So seeing like him and Paul and their interactions, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Everyone's at the top of their game in this movie. So good job, everybody.
Yeah, same, just echoing both of you. All the performances were really good, and like their relationships were all believable. Like Paul and his dad's and Paul and his mom, like Duncan Idaho and Paul's relationship. You're like when they're acting or they're together on screen, you're like, yeah, I kind of believe that they cared this much for each other. Special shout outs to like my favorite performance of the movie for Stellan Skarsgård, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Like Alex is saying, he was just really good, and I wanted more of him and his like family. Like every time he's on screen, he just commands it. He commands your attention, and I was like, yeah, I really want to know more about this guy. And of course, Timothée Chalamet. I have a couple of friends that watch this, and I make fun of Timothée for looking like a 14-year-old boy. He's like almost 30, I think. But
no way he's that old. There's no way.
He's born 1995. He's like 20 up there. Yeah.
Wow, good for him.
I looked it up.
Great.
And yeah, but his performance is really good. And yeah, in that way, he earned my respect. So I apologize to my friends Travis and Allison for making fun of him all the time. He still looks like a 14-year-old boy though. So yeah, let's move on to the technical aspects of the movie, where the effects, the music, the sound effects, and the general look. What do you guys think?
This is the part of the movie that like this shines for me over anything else. Everything good. This to me, it was gorgeous. I found myself honestly kind of getting a little lost in the story and just looking at it being like, wow, this looks great. For me, like the special effects of the worm, oh my god, that just like got me so good. Like the mouth coming up and just like the way, I don't know what I was expecting, like a Star Wars worm, you know what I mean? I was expecting something kind of a little goofier looking. That thing's terrifying. The way the teeth are designed, like just the design of this creature in general was spectacular. I loved it. And I love just the outfits, the world, like the way Spice is portrayed. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, and it looks really cool. And I don't know, this world, I love it. I would love to have just like screensavers of like Dune as like my background because it just looks sick. I love it. I love it. I think it looks amazing. So for that part, beautiful. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, this is probably like the best looking. I want to say best looking sci-fi movie since maybe Mad Max Fury Road. Go figure. They're both like a ton of sand. But, yeah, the desert. But yeah, it's like the difference between this one and like Blade Runner 2049 is that like this movie Dune did not feel like it was being self-indulgent with you know the vistas and what it was showing. Like it felt like more purposeful. It didn't kind of stall when showing off how beautiful the landscapes are and the spaceships. It was all breathtaking. The worm, obviously, it was all great. It was, yeah, and like I want to talk about the whole force field thing. I love the way it was implemented in this movie compared to the original Dune.
The blocks.
The blocks, which is crazy to think about. Like in this day and age, everyone should like check it out on YouTube. Like it's just wild to think about, and like it's so streamlined and makes so much sense. Like in this modern one, so amazing, aces. And Hans Zimmer, I should say Hans Zimmer, awesome job. Yeah, music was great, and the sound effects.
Yeah, visually just stunning, and that's credit to Denis Villeneuve and his, I think the cinematographer is the one he usually works with all the time. Every frame of this movie has just been planned meticulously, and it's gorgeous. It looks like a paint. Every frame you can kind of just frame and put in on your wall somewhere. The music was great. It's again typical of Denis Villeneuve's movies, and it's really good. I can't even say any more than what you guys said because that's it. If just up to like the visuals, the effects, and the music, this would have been like, I would give this one like 11 out of 10. It was just really, really beautiful to look at. And yeah, so let's talk about our favorite scenes in this movie. Anything stand out more than the other? This movie was really good. So what stood out to you?
I mean, I kind of already said it. I kind of already spoiled it in the visual effects. The worm, for me, because there's a couple worm scenes. But it is the first one, like where it's eating the, can't remember what the machine's called, but the thing that gets the spice when it comes up and kind of eats that thing. Because then you get the scope of how big this thing is. Like that whole sequence is amazing. It coming towards them, and I love the way the sand kind of starts to behave differently and kind of shift, and they kind of start sinking in a little bit. Like that visual effect of the sand doing things is so good. And then seeing the actual scope of the worm and just like the many teeth, for me, that worked so well. I love the worm. I love it so much. It's the highlight of the movie. And then like second honorary mention goes to like the 2-second scene of seeing somebody riding the worm, because I knew it was going to come up. And when he sees someone in the desert riding the worm, I cannot wait. I know that's because they're all talking about desert power, and I know that must happen in part 2, that he gets to ride a worm or somebody gets to ride a worm, and I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for that. So.
Michelle, you should check out The Worm from the 1982 movie just for comparison.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Check
we'll
that
see.
one out.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I think I'm gonna try to watch like the original movie one, just
for as long as you
so
can.
I can appreciate what's happening now.
You know, it's funny. I forgot to mention this, but like all the worm stuff in this movie, it reminded me of the movie Tremors. I don't know if you guys watched it. Yeah.
Great movie.
Amazing movie. Yeah. Anyway, favorite scene. I'd probably go with Paul when he's with the Reverend Mother, and he has the test of putting his hand into the box where, unimaginable pain, and if you pull it out, like, it was really tense, really suspenseful. It's not the biggest or flashiest, but I thought, like, it was most suspenseful. And probably Duncan Idaho's sacrifice. That was really cool, where he just like put this sword up like that. But yeah, that's dope.
For me, there's a couple, and again, they're not just like Alex's. They're not like flashy special effects scenes, and they both involve my boy, the Baron. The first one is when Oscar Isaac's character chewed on that kind of poison thing. And then when everybody kind of goes and grabs the body and he's just like up there, like that, like rotund man is just up in the ceiling, like
Yeah.
hanging through your life. And the second one, which actually is my favorite one, is when he was healing in that healing bath and he
Yeah.
just comes out and it's just like, man, this dude is scary. So yeah, that was my favorite scene. It's just like the like its effect on me and the way it looked, the colors and everything was just like, yep, I want to frame this moment right here.
I want to frame his olive oil balsamic bath. Like,
There's this weird oil thing on him. And after like talking to Dave Bautista, he just kind of goes back in. It's just like, oh, that guy's boss. So yeah, and with that, let's go to our final thoughts and let's score the damn thing.
I could give it a score. I'd obviously I love that. Like we all love it, and I could pretty much guess where the scorings are going to be centered around. But I will say this in terms of negative things, I really disliked, and I knew this beforehand because like I knew they didn't film a second part because I knew there were some roles that weren't casted that are kind of integral to the original Dune movie that I watched. So in my head while watching the movie, I was just thinking like, man, is this it? Like you're gonna end. I knew it was like gonna end. Okay, there's gonna be a stunning shot with the worm, and we're gonna get to see Zendaya in person, and like that's how it's gonna end. Like in my head, and that kind of negatively affected the way I was watching it throughout, like knowing where it was going, and also with the doubt that there would be a sequel, like that the story would be completed. So when I did watch it, like it brings down the score a bit, but maybe in future viewings it'll raise it up. But I would give it an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm curious what you think our scores are.
Alex, guess it. Actually, guess it.
Yeah.
Guess it. Okay, I'm gonna say lose a 9.5, and Michelle's an 8.5 or 9.
Michelle, final thoughts and then your score, and let's see how close Alex was.
Now I want to change my score just to make Alex super wrong.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a bit dense for me. That was like the negative piece. It was just a lot. But I enjoyed it visually. It was a good time. I'm excited for the second one. Like I'm very excited, knowing that it's greenlit, knowing all the details, and like it's supposed to be 2023, which is a while, which is a bit of a bummer. But knowing all that, I feel good. My score is not quite there, Alex. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Though, okay. Yeah, and here's my thought process. I'm scoring it based on having like my most recent viewing, which is my only viewing, but I expect that score will go up now that I understand it more. But upon a first viewing, that's a lot, so I couldn't connect with the story as much as like both of you were able to because I was confused. And I like to think I'm smart enough to understand most movies, but there's something about this one that just some aspects of it didn't land for me. So I give it a 7.5 with the expectation that upon rewatching and now that I understand who the heck is who and like why the Harkonnens did any of the things they did, because I could not understand what they were doing. I feel like it will go up probably closer to what Alex said, but right now it's a 7.5.
For me, the movie was great. Again, I'm a very visual guy. You don't know how many great comics that are really good stories that I don't read because I don't like the art. This was not that. It visually was great. The story was, we've talked about this a lot, although very dense and you get lost in it sometimes. It was still really good, and I really enjoyed the entire lore of it. Same kind of complaints as you guys too. They marketed this movie with like Zendaya and everything, and I'm pretty sure her entire screen time didn't pass 5 minutes. So that kind of took it down. But as for how close Alex was to my score, pretty close. I give it a 9 out of 10. So yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
So
We've been doing this long enough, you know us kind of.
yeah, you know the score. So that is it for our Dune review. Please do check out our social medias. We're still trying to reach 1,000, and we're gonna have a cool video by Alex and Germ just explaining what you can get if you are part of that 1,000 and you get the prize. So hit like, subscribe, all that YouTube things. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lou, and I've been joined by Michelle and Alex, and we'll see you again. Peace.